here. What's the story with that, and is he tied into this case?
Carlos is a witness. Now that it's been leaked from the police department, I can tell you pretty much details what it's all about. Carlos is a witness that came through another lady that works in a newspaper, not ours. She came to me and told me, listen, I have a friend that wants to come to you because he trusts you and he wants to tell you what he saw. So after a few days of insistence by this lady, I accepted to receive this Carlos.
Right.
He came and he told me a story that he was at home at night. He had a discussion with his wife who was in Colombia. And then in order to relax, because he has an old car, he jumped into his car and drove over to a piece of beach way to the north, way past the lighthouse. And he put his car there behind some bushes and he fell asleep. Then he was awakened by a woman's screams, saying no, 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 and another nasty word that I will not read on the radio.
Okay.
And then he woke up and he crawled in the bushes and he saw. And according to him, he saw one of these suspects with a girl that had suddenly become silent. Then he took off his clothes, he took something out of the trunk of his car, he wrapped the body in it, and then walked out into the ocean. At that part of the ocean, you can walk out quite a stretch, and then he swam with the body out into the ocean and then came back alone, put on his clothes, got into his car, and left. This is the story of this Carlos, this witness.
Okay, and he's still in custody?
He's still in custody. Well, he also claimed to have two pieces of evidence that he must have handed over to the police by now. I hope those evidences don't disappear also, or not disappear. Disappear is not the right word, but that just are filed and we hear nothing more about them. I hope that these two pieces of evidence will be looked into, will be sent to Holland, analyzed, and that we will get the answers back for a change.
One of the positive parts of the investigation, and believe me, in my opinion, they're few and far between, was the reenactment, and some will question the type of reenactment on the Aruban version or Dutch version of America's Most Wanted. Was there ever any follow-up from that, tips that came in that you've heard that were useful, information that came forward, Jossy?
Well, there were many tips that came in, many people that called, I understand, but none of it was useful, because up to today we haven't seen any follow-up to that program that is significant, that has contributed in any way whatsoever to the case, to searching or finding the answers to the case. No, I don't think anything useful came out of that program.
All right, if you're just tuning in, Jossy Mansour, managing editor of Dario, is here, and we're continuing our discussion regarding the Holloway case, the disappearance of Natalie Holloway. It's been over a year now. Lorenzo Van Renge, I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm sure, but I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He has several homes. One was searched, one wasn't. Tell us a little bit about him.
You know, I don't know much about him. What I do know is, what our reporters have been able to find out is that he seems to be a half-brother of Joran. He has a boat. He lives in a secluded section of the island, and he's very close to Joran. He was looked into. I don't know whether he was questioned. I didn't see that in the tons of documents that we have. But people mention his name quite often with regards to this case.
Now, when you and I talked last week, we talked about searching of the Vandersloot home. And after you were off the air, I took a call from a lady who said her information was that the complete home was searched except for a younger brother's room. And then after that, some more information came regarding a concrete slab in the property or on the property. Can we clarify a little bit, Jossy, as far as the search of the Vandersloot property? Was it done? Wasn't it done?
As far as we know, it wasn't done. Not the house itself, no. The apartment of Joran that's on the property of the house, yes. They took quite a few things from the apartment with them. They did discover somewhere on the yard, or people who know that there is some kind of an outside, an exterior basement, well, or whatever.
Right.
Yes, we've heard that, but we've heard also that even Tim Miller of EquiSearch tried to get in there by any means whatsoever that he could to put an end to that, at least to get some answers and rule out that part of Aruba, that property, as any possible place where a body may be found. But they never had permission from police to do that,
right.
And I don't think they ever searched his home itself.
Has there been any indication regarding the consideration of searching his home? I know all this time later, I'm not sure of the viability of that, but has there been any further discussion regarding that?
No, none whatsoever. I think that it's been discarded as possible. You need a court order to do that, a search warrant. That hasn't been asked for, and it hasn't been given. So that search hasn't taken place, and I don't think it will ever take place either.
We're down to a couple of minutes left, Jossy, and again, I really appreciate you coming back to discuss this case. You mentioned at the beginning of the show, in speaking with Karen Janssen, she's confident that this case will go to trial. And you made a comment on the show last time regarding Natalie and who she was with. Where do you see this trial, if there is a trial, going? How long do you think it will be before that trial happens? Or will you and I be talking about this still 6 months from now?
No, I don't think it's going to take 6 months. But she indicated once that the case would come forward in January, and then in March, then in June, before the sentence was passed on the claim put in by police on the slope. But it's very hard for us to find out from her because she doesn't speak. She has a gag order.
Right.
She can't talk to the press. She would receive calls from people outside of Aruba, but from us, she won't receive any calls. But once in a while we meet her here or there, and we ask her questions. And she does answer what she can, but never on the case directly. So it's very hard to know exactly what she is planning or when she has the intentions of bringing this case to court.
All right. Here's the toughest question of our 2 weeks, Jossy. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Answer me this if you can, sir. What's your speculation as far as what happened to Natalie Holloway?
You know, my speculation, this is pure speculation, is that Natalie was done harm by one or more of these three suspects. It's impossible for me to believe that three people who were with her in the last moments before she disappeared don't know what happened to her. They know very well what happened to her. They didn't leave her at the Holiday Inn. They didn't leave her on the beach. They took her to this apartment of Joran. I don't know what happened in that apartment, but something must have happened to her. And Joran admitted to the police once that a bad thing happened to Natalie. And why would Deepak, in the conversation that was stated in the police car coming from the prison to the court, tell Joran, if they ever find the body, you'll be looking at 15 years in prison? Why? Why would he tell him that?
And that's a very important fact as far as the recorded conversation in the police car and comments thereof. We touched a little bit, and I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I told you that'd be the last question, but I missed one here regarding the Kelpo brothers and their culpability or alleged culpability in this case. I know we talked about them being quiet as far as the media goes, but can you speculate again, briefly, Jossy, the involvement of the Kelpo brothers? And would this end up being a case where eventually one of them that was there will come forward and, I guess use the term, turn state evidence?
I think so. I think one of the three is going to talk sooner or later. I hope sooner than later. But the involvement of the Kelpo brothers is very hard to determine, except for the declarations that they gave to the police. Now, why would they invent all these stories with Joran? Why would they stick to this question of leaving him on the beach? Well, we know very well by now that they took her to his apartment. that they never went to the lighthouse to look at sharks. Who goes to look at sharks at midnight in a place where they're never seen?
Right.
I don't know. But I think they are involved in the sense that they know as well as Joran what happens to Natalie. They do.
All right. Jossy Manser, Managing Editor of Dario. Thank you, sir, for joining me again for a part 2, I guess, of our interview regarding the Holloway investigation. Can we stay in touch and have you on again when the time is right?
When I can answer any questions or contribute to anything to get towards the answers of this place, sure, anytime. Just call me.
Thank you for